Tortorella, to me, has done a good coaching job. He has. For me, it's time for him to go. I mean, I think, look, he's done a good job there. I don't think he'll be fired. I think at the end of the year, they'll part ways. I think they'll part ways at the end of the year. I don't see Kekalainen firing him. I think Torts will say, okay, my contract's expired. I'm going to move on.
We can't finish a Columbus conversation without mentioning Tortorella. After that debacle against Detroit, you think this is the time he's going to come out and start hammering guys left, right, and center, and everybody expected to start with Patrik Laine at his 14 minutes, but for whatever reason, he chose the opposite and didn't specifically go that route. So when you expect it, he doesn't. When you don't expect it, he does. But Mac, 14 minutes. Okay, for a guy that you traded that's supposed to be your superstar, 14 minutes. How does that happen? How does he not still feel enough pressure to say, I can't embarrass this guy. I can't embarrass our organization. We gave up our center, number one centerman for him. If the ship's going down, let's go down playing this guy 21, 22 minutes.
Listen, I love Dave King. Okay, I love Dave King. But I'll never forget watching with Rusty Klesla, who was a first-round pick and looked like he was going to be a real good player coming out of Bram. I mean, this is a kid defenseman that could create offense.
A horse. He was a horse.
And I mean, he ended up playing 12 years, but sort of, disappointing, I guess, because we all thought he was going to be a real top guy, and so did everybody else, a high third overall pick. I remember watching him one night, and he played, I think, 4 minutes of ice time, and I went down, and I said to Dave King after the game, I said, Dave, I don't think this was our first year in the league or second year in the league, whatever it was. And I said, Dave, I just don't think we're going to win the cup this year. I don't think we're good enough to win the cup this year. We're an expansion team. Could we not get Rusty on the ice a little more than 4 minutes? And the next game, he played him 3 minutes. I'm thinking,
okay,
holy good God.
You're my boss, and you've quietly given me the nod.
And I love Dave King, by the way.
Play a guy, and then now, was that a fuck you, or was that I forgot, or I just can't play him anymore than that?
No, it was just, I mean, Dave was a stubborn guy, and there's nothing wrong with that. I happen to like Dave King a lot, and he was a good man, and he had an amazing career. I think he just believed that. I think he just believed that that's what he deserved. And he, lots of times you're caught here because you're trying to build chemistry, and if kids get the free ride, it doesn't go good. But we're not talking about a rookie here with Laine. We're talking about a 30-goal scorer or more in his career. And we're talking about a guy that should be ready to just totally take off in his career. We're talking about a team that can't score, that nobody on that team can score with the exception of, well, who? Bjorkstrand?
Every time you write off Tortorella in Columbus, kind of finds a way to get guys to go a little bit here.
He does.
And
yeah, he does.
I don't know.
But these two games against Detroit, I'm sorry, I've never seen. I agree with you. When Torts is down and out, and he gets them going, they find another gear and they get it going. But these two performances, after battling Carolina last week, winning two shootouts in Carolina, and then they lost tough ones at home to Carolina. Then to go into Detroit after playing real well last week, to totally piss it away was mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling. And then to have the scorer not get to play. What do you do when you've got a guy that is in a funk like this guy's in? I know he was -2, and I know he's given up some goals because of defensive. Don't you double shift him? Don't you put him on left wing and put him on right wing?
No. You know what you do? You don't double shift him. You double down on who you are and what you're all about. And Tortorella, his bread and butter as a coach is holding people accountable. And he will never let that go. And even if it embarrasses Yarmo, his general manager, he is holding on to that. And I really believe at this point, Mac, that he is coaching in many ways for his next job. And he will sell his accountability right to the bitter end with Columbus. And the beauty of it is the more he pushes this accountability and playing line A 12 or 14 minutes, the more he probably intrigues other teams who are so desperate for it right now. And I include the Pagulas in Buffalo. Maybe, just maybe, the more he watches, the more the Buffalo Sabres organization and the Pagulas watch Tortorella hold people accountable, the more they say, we need some of that in Buffalo. Just a thought. What do you think?
He's going to hold Eichel accountable.
Yes. Yeah.
And Skinner.
Yeah.
And Darlene. And, you know, I mean, look, that I don't know. Look, Tortorella to me has done a good coaching job. He has. For me, it's time for him to go. I mean, I think, look, he's done a good job there. I don't think he'll be fired. I think at the end of the year, they'll part ways. I think they'll part ways at the end of the year. I don't see Kekalainen firing him. I think Torts will say, okay, my contract's expired. I'm going to move on. I think that's what will happen. I think there's respect there on both sides. What?
I think
there's respect on both sides. And we can, look, there's different ways to get guys out of slumps. And ice time is not just the only way. Sometimes you've got to be a little more proactive and try to push it. Play them with the top line. Give them extra, double shift them. Do some of those things. These were wins. These were winnable games against the Detroit Red Wings that you lost. They were empty net goals in the games. Those were 2 wins you were counting on to make the playoffs. Accountability is I agree with you 100% on accountability, but don't mix up accountability and stupidity in the same sentence when you've got to win 2 games against the worst team in the second worst team in the league. That's all I'm saying. Nobody will ever question Tortorella's making players accountable, but can't you sometimes push the envelope to try to get a win?
I have no doubt that there will be a team waiting for Tortorella, just as the New York Islanders were waiting for Barry Trotz to leave Washington. And probably the most underpaid coach with a Stanley Cup resume than anybody else out there. Tortorella wants another payday and one that'll put him up there with the big boys. I think that's where he's headed.